And I want you to pay particular attention to the first speaker, because she is going to be giving her Division B winning international speech today. And she is very, very keen to get good feedback. And where better to get good feedback than from elite Toastmasters? So this germinated a thought in my head. And that thought was, yes, she will have a quality evaluation from a fellow Toastmaster. But later on in the meeting, we're going to have a round table evaluation of her speech also. So while she's speaking, I want each and every one of you to write down 4 things. 2 of them, good things about her speech, positive things, and 2 of them, improvements. And later on, when we do our round table evaluation, we will use those to give her that round table evaluation. Does everybody understand that now? Mm-hmm. All right. That being said, I'm going to introduce her as if she were competing in a contest. Rachel Velez, Starfish Throwers. Starfish Throwers, Rachel Velez.
What comes to mind when you think of the beach? Is it the rolling waves crashing on the sandy shores? Or maybe children building sandcastles? Well, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmasters, I think of these things, as well as time spent at the beach with my family and my friends. But I also think about a story that I once heard, written in 1969 by Loren Eiseley. The title is The Starfish Thrower. And for those of you who have not heard the tale, it goes like this. There was an old man walking along the shore, and in the distance he saw a figure throwing something into the ocean. As the man approached the figure, he saw that it was a young boy. He asked the young boy what he was doing, to which the young boy responded, "I'm throwing these beach starfish back into the ocean." The old man laughed and said, "But there are miles and miles of starfish, and only one of you. You can't possibly make a difference." And to that, the young boy picked up a starfish, threw it into the ocean, and said, "I just made a difference for that one." From the time that I first heard this story, I have lived by the starfish story. It wasn't until the last 10 months or so that I had just completely forgotten about the tale. And it wasn't until I stood at my late uncle's memorial that I remembered just how much this story meant to me. You see, I didn't know my uncle very well. In fact, the clearest memories I have of him are in his late days, where he was void of most mental capacities, withered, and bedridden after a 15-year battle against MS. But the person that the people talked about at his memorial was a person who was filled with life and love and godliness, of a man who was a real starfish thrower. My uncle was the kind of man to sit down with his son's best friend after he lost his first job, just to put a smile on his face. The kind of man who worked his every day to make somebody else's life a better place. Even in death, my uncle brought people love and joy and security. You see, my family is a little bit broken, and our divide has weighed heavily on my heart for the last 5 or 6 years. But at my uncle's memorial, I was able to see people that I hadn't seen in years, including my little cousins who are now a freshman in college, freshmen in high school. Seeing them lifted me out of a darker place. My uncle was inadvertently a starfish thrower when he brought my fragmented family back together again. I'd like to ask you, have you ever felt like a starfish, like a beach starfish? Out of place, out of water, unsure of what was to come, or scared? I know that I've felt this way countless number of times in my life, including during my family's divide, but I have been fortunate enough to have starfish throwers in my life. In fact, the first starfish thrower I remember was my childhood karate instructor, Sensei Cindy. When I was a child, I was picked on a lot for being dark-skinned and curly-haired and a little chubby. But Sensei Cindy taught me life lessons that I still hold dear to this day. Now, when I was a kid, I hated sparring class. I hated karate, and I really, really hated fighting. I was a passive child, more of a lover than a fighter. So my favorite technique in fighting was the backing away, keeping everyone at a distance. And one day, as I was practicing this move, Sensei Cindy yelled, "Break!" Stopped my match, pulled me off to the side and said, "Rachel, you will never learn to face your problems if you keep running away from them." And so that day I learned to face my problems. When she tied my karate belt to my opponent, there was no escape. The other thing I hated about sparring class was getting hit. And one time I was kicked so hard, I stopped my own match, bent over, panting, ready to cry. So Sensei Cindy officially ended it, yelling, "Break!" She pulled me off to the side, said, "Rachel, put your hands over your head and take a deep breath." I did, and she said, "Never show your opponents your weakness." So I nodded and wiped the welling tears from my eyes, got back in my stance, finished the match, and cried the whole way home. But Sensei Cindy taught me to find strength in myself and in my family, and to stand up to my problems. She germinated confidence within me at an early age. She was a starfish thrower. A starfish thrower is a person who ignites a spark within you in your darkest hour, who you may not think of often, but whose compassion you can never forget. A starfish thrower is someone who changes the lives of others, and we all have the ability to be a starfish thrower, to positively affect another person simply by lending a listening ear, or a shoulder to cry on, or a helping hand. We all have the ability to change lives, to be somebody's Uncle Tom or Sensei Cindy. So as you walk along the sandy shores of life, remember that, wow, there are miles and miles of starfish, and only one of you